Hooray.
Speak of the devil, as they like to say.
Yeah. Woohoo.
We have a caller on the phone, and it is our illustrious guest. And I'm trying to bring up some information here. Let me go ahead and... I want to give April the proper introduction.
Oh, definitely.
April March worked in burlesque from 1952 to 1978, performing all over the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and in England. She was called the First Lady of Burlesque, in part because of her resemblance to First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, mostly due to her ladylike behavior on and off stage, never crass or profane. April was the personification of the elegant stripteaser and became known for her class and grace. April headlined 2 Harold Minsky shows and Ann Corio's show, This Was Burlesque, on Broadway. In 1964, April appeared in a short film made by Jim Henson, if that name doesn't ring a bell, Mr. Muppet.
No doubt.
The name of the film was called Timepiece. And more recently, you can catch April in the documentary Behind the Burly Q. April March, thank you, and welcome to the Mick Show.
Well, hello, Mick. It's a pleasure, my pleasure, and I hope I don't sound too froggy. I came back from Toronto. I come back from all of these venues with a bronchial and sinus infection. So let's hope I make it through the interview without sneezing.
Hi, April.
Hi, hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry that you're a little stuffy there, but it's nice to talk to you.
This is my co-host, Eemia, and she was reading your bio just a little while ago, and we ran into you via Facebook,
right.
Social media, and how has social media affected your life?
Oh, my goodness gracious. I thought I was retired in 78, and all of a sudden it seems like I've got a larger career than when I retired.
Wow.
Yeah, you've got people, thousands and thousands of people who have sought you out, and in a sense has revived your career.
Yes, it has.
So
and I'm glad, because it's wonderful to be back on stage again and talking to the audience and the spotlight. You know, once a ham, always a ham.
Always a performer.
Yes, that's true.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the even better news is that you've now gotten around to writing your autobiography.
Yes, a gentleman from Boston, Dan Perez, has helped me with the book, and the book will be out next month. In fact, I just spoke with him about an hour before speaking with you, and I told him I read the manuscript that he left with me this past weekend, and made a few corrections and a few, misspelled names, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited about the book, and of course you heard about a drink being named after me, didn't you?
I heard something loosely referenced, but I didn't get all the details. What is the drink?
The drink, it's called the April March First Lady Cocktail. And a young lady by the name of Caitlin Rieger, who's the producer of Slice TV in Toronto and London, England, she met with me in July when I was there for the festival, and took me to lunch and did a 2-hour taping of me. And we became very close friends. So when 2 days after I got back home to New York, she called me and said that she had gotten in touch with a friend of hers who's a famous food blogger by the name of Meredith Smart. And Meredith concocted a cocktail for me. And when I was in Toronto this past a week ago, I had Sam, that owns the famous Cadillac Lounge. He made the drink for me. It was the first time I had tasted it, and I'm not supposed to because I'm on Coumadin, but I had to have my drink.
Of course.
Anyway, it's a wonderful cocktail. It's as pretty as it is tasty.
What's the recipe?
It's made with 2 ounces of aged rum, 1.5 ounces of framboise, and the juice of half of a lime. and you put it in a shaker with ice, and you shake it up, strain it into a martini glass, slice a raspberry, and put the raspberry on the rim of the glass. It's very tasty.
Fantastic.
So that drink is going to be all over the country, and it's going to be on the Cadillac Lounge menu for around $15 or $20. So
wow.
it's going to be an expensive little drink.
So nurse that drink.
Yes, nurse that drink.
Nurse the drink, enjoy it, and I would imagine they'd be serving it out in Vegas as well.
Probably. Well, I think Boston. When I go to Boston for the Boston Burlesque Expo, Scratch, Alex Newman, and the Boston Baby Dolls, they're going to try to get that as the drink of the expo at the oh goodness gracious, I can't think of the name of the hotel in the Hyatt Regency.
Okay.
So anyway, that'll be good. I can go out and shake up a few myself, I guess. But
no pun intended.
No pun intended. And then that Caitlin Rieger, when she gets back from London, she's going to bring a film crew to New York and film a documentary with me. And all sorts of good things are happening.
It just sounds like you're just as busy now in 2011 as you were during the 50s and the 60s.
I think I'm busier.
Yeah.
And at age 76, I made Penthouse magazine in the May issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was funny.
Well,
Leslie Zemeckis sent an article to Penthouse advertising the Behind the Burlesque.
Yeah.
And sent a photo of me clothed. And I was surprised because I had turned down Playhouse magazine, or Playboy magazine, years and years ago for $10,000. Here I show up in Penthouse, which isn't as elegant as Playboy, for nothing.
For nothing.
For nothing, right? But,
so you turned down Hugh Hefner.
I turned down Hugh Hefner.
You did, and not a lot of women turned down Hugh Hefner during his lifetime.
No,
you
they
did.
don't. Yes, I turned down Hugh Hefner.
And is it true that you've never appeared nude on stage during your burlesque act?
Well, I not completely nude.
Right.
In England, you had to have your G-string on a hook and eye, and you unhooked it, but the curtains closed and the light was very dim, and you stood like a statue. So.
Oh, that's right. I heard. According to the obscenity laws, you weren't allowed to move. That's right.
No, you couldn't move. And then in the theaters, in the later years, like in the early 60s, 70s, it started in where they wanted the star attraction to remove the G-string.
Right.
But I never would do it. I went bare-breasted, but I had feathers or a negligee on. I never stood or danced around nude.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And
Minsky told me years ago that a lady always leaves a little something to the imagination. So I followed that. I followed that throughout the years.
Throughout your whole career, and well, I'll get to Minsky in just a minute because I was fascinated with his history and in your encounter with him. But wouldn't you say that it's obvious? It's safe to say, and you would agree with me on this, that the so-called sexual revolution of the late '60s pretty much killed burlesque? Yes.
It started, well, first of all, it started with the go-go dancing.
Yes.
Then it went into now I've seen some beautiful pole dancing done, but usually in the smutty clubs it's not beautiful. It's lewd, whatever.
Lewd and
then
lascivious.
The lap dancing. I mean, how can you compete with the lap dancing and X-rated films on the screen in between burlesque shows?
Yeah, there's so many facets of the burlesque genre that our listeners are just not aware of. When we think of stripping today, like you said, we think of the strip clubs where everything is nude, everything is gratuitous and in your face. But back in the day, it wasn't like that. It really was an entertainment complex I mean, there were a lot of very famous comics who worked the burlesque scene with you, who were, were up and coming at the time and went on to become household names.
Right, and then, well, not only that, but see, another thing that killed burlesque in the later years, all of the comics have died out.
Yeah.
And there's none of the younger comics seem to want to take over burlesque comedy.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you crossed paths with them, but I mean, some of the names back in who got started in burlesque, you're talking about Jackie Gleason, Phil Silvers, Ed Wynn, Jimmy Durante, yeah.
But Abbott Lou Costello.
Abbott and Costello did burlesque for a number of years.
Robert Alda was a straight man. He was a talking man in burlesque.
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, there was many people. I met Jimmy Durante, and we both came back on the same flight out of Wisconsin, and both of us, you could smell the cheese in our luggage. we both came back with. Of course, you don't come back from Wisconsin without cheese. So both of us had our luggage loaded up, and it was a little smelly on that plane. But
was it all blue cheese?
He loved burlesque people. We spoke for a couple of hours on burlesque.
Jimmy was an old vaudevillian. I mean, he goes all the way back to the vaudeville days, so he was on that circuit for a long time as well.
Yes.
But yeah, there's just I think if you could paint the picture of a typical night of a club that you would work in, when a patron comes in and pays their money, what exactly are they going to see? Back in the day.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Beautiful, coiffed women in gorgeous gowns and furs, and no lewd, lascivious shows, that's for sure.
Right.
Everybody, it cost a lot of money back in those days to be in burlesque. Now, like you say, they come on stage with nothing but maybe a little $5 nightie.
That's it.
You know?
Something they can throw away.
Yeah, and a pair of high heels, and that's it.
Yeah. That's their big investment is the high heel. That's it.
That's it.
That's where all their money goes.
Yeah. But in my time, it was all professional photographs from people like Kriegsman and Jean Laverne and Marie Seymour. And you had to keep those replenished, and then it was also very, very expensive for wardrobe.
Yes. I mean,
and feather boas.
And lots of
boas.
That was the standard fare, was the feathered boa. When you think of burlesque, you think of the feathered boa.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But I instead of using the feathered boas so much, I was more of a one for a pretty duster, maybe with the boas, the feathers around the neckline or something like that. But when I took, I did a garter belt stocking act, and when I got up and I was just in pasties and G-string, I always had someone hand me the duster or feathers and had them around me, for the end of the act.
Right.
So, and I guess you know that a young lady in Boston that's with the Boston Baby Dolls, Eemia Murray, she did a tribute to me this year.
Oh no, I didn't know.
And she made a costume exactly like one of the red costumes that I have, and we worked together. And I showed her what how I did things, and I had a tune written for me called Blues for April. That was manuscript music. So Alec Newman, who has the Boston